Hi there everybody. Today is going to be a little different. I actually have house guests and did not want to disturb them. So I'm actually doing this from outside. It is a little windy today, so it's probably going to be a little noisy. But here we go. This is going to be my review of Conviction, which released on May 5th, 2010. How far and for how long are you willing to stand up for something that you believe in? That is what Conviction is really about. Would you be able to devote time, energy, money, and sacrifice family and friends for something that you believed in? Conviction is based on the real-life murder case of Kenny Waters, played by Sam Rockwell, in Ayers, Massachusetts from the 1980s. In May of 1980, Katharina Brow was found viciously murdered in her home. She was stabbed more than 30 times and brutally beaten with several objects. The day after Brow's body was discovered, Kenny Waters was brought into the police station for questioning. Having an alibi and not much else to go on, the police released Kenny later that day. Why was Kenny a suspect in the case, you may wonder? Because at the time, Kenny was living with his girlfriend, Brenda Marsh, which was right next door to the Brow's home. He worked at the diner Brow often frequented. It was also known in the community for causing ruckuses. The case of Katharina Brow, however, would remain open for 2 years until Brenda Marsh, played by Clea Duvall, told a man that was living with her that Kenny had confessed to the murder of Katharina Brow. Mr. Osborne would then take that confession he learned from Marsh to the police department, where the police would use that to convince Brow that she needed to testify in court that Kenny Waters, indeed, was the murderer of Katharina Brow, or she was threatened to be tried as an accessory to the crime. Kenny Waters was convicted by a jury to a life sentence without parole in 1983. The evidence against him was blood matching his type in the victims. You have to remember that DNA testing was not discovered as of yet. There were fingerprints at the scene, but determined by both sides that they were of no value. Outraged by her brother's conviction, Betty Ann Waters, played by Hilary Swank, Kenny's sister, knew deep down her brother was innocent and vowed to appeal the court's ruling no matter what it would take. Betty Ann was so convinced that her brother was innocent and felt the only person that would be able to push the appeal was herself. Betty Ann enrolled in law school and pushed herself. She became her brother's official lawyer, and her devotion to her brother in law school would come at the price of losing her marriage and her children as she constantly struggled to balance work and law school. While visiting Kenny constantly to keep up her morale and renew her strength to the commitment to the case, that just took all the more trying. Finally, having passed the bar, Betty was now able to get evidence from her brother's trial and use it as the basis for an appeal. Her ammunition to go against the courts? The blood evidence from the scene of the crime. DNA matching was now a reality and could be used in an appeal to hopefully save her brother. In 2008, Betty Ann began working with the Innocence Project, a project that was formed when DNA testing became available to be used to prove wrongful convictions. Later that year, the blood from the crime was analyzed by a private lab. The results, and Kenny Waters' blood, was not found at the scene of the crime. 18 years after his conviction, Kenny Waters was released from prison. You have to ask, what was the conviction? Was it Kenny Waters' time in jail, or was it her sacrifice? The movie was good. Notice, I said good. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was an average movie and meets the expectations of what you come to expect from a true life story. Running at 107 minutes long, it didn't drag on, and it didn't cut short the woman's struggle to save her brother. It was directed by Tony Goldwyn of The Last Kiss. He brought you back in time to Massachusetts and gave you the feeling of being someone in this town that was watching this family's events occur. The film also stars Minnie Driver as Abra Rice, who was Betty Waters' schoolmate. Peter Gallagher is Barry Scheck, who is a lawyer for the Innocence Project. And Melissa Leo as Nancy Taylor, who is a police officer about as corrupt as you could get, or at least in my opinion. What really made this movie work is the actors in it. There's some, sorry about that, my notes are flying all over the place. There's some really nice work to be seen from Swank and Rockwell throughout. Conviction is rated R for language and violent images. But given the nature of the story, I agree with the rating and the content of the movie. The language is not overused, and the violent images only show what is necessary and does not contain excessive gore for those images. Also coming into the spotlight in the movie is the corruption of the justice system, from the police to the courts. I won't comment on that. I'll let you make up your own mind if you think there's corruption happening in the court system or if this is all just conspiracy theory. It's definitely not a movie I would recommend bringing the family together around the living room for, but it is those for available to those that like watching true crime stories. They're probably going to get the most appreciation out of the movie. And I'm going to say what I usually say with real life stories turned into movies, and that's I don't know all the details. I don't know what really happened. I did, after the movie, Wikipedia it, learn a little more about it, but I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert, so I only write this from an entertainment point of view. There's only one question I had from the movie, and it's, how did this woman that's lost her husband, single mother, making ends meet, afford to go to law school? Or why didn't she try hiring a lawyer? I'm sure this is all probably known. If I dig through the internet, I'll find answers, so I'm not going to stress on it too much. But in the end, this really comes down to that question again, is how far are you willing to go? Hi there, I just wanted to apologize again for the quality of this video. Normally it's not as windy when I'm recording this, so I'm sure the sound quality wasn't that great. And normally my notes are not blowing all over the place, so normally I'm not looking all over the place trying to read something. So I just wanted to apologize again, and hope you keep coming back saying more about my thoughts on movies. And if you know anything about this case, if you have any comments about it, feel free to leave a comment onto this video and let me know what you think about the case or what you thought about the movie. Alright, thank you, and until then, keep it real.